Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a little while, a few weeks, since I've posted something on this channel, and I'm so sorry for the impromptu break because it was not planned at all. But I have a vlog up on my lifestyle channel if you want to know kind of some of the things that have been going on. I also have posted an announcement that happened after I recorded that vlog that has also been occupying a lot of time. Spoiler, we adopted a second cat. Anyway, I am back today, even though we are having a heat wave in Paris. This is probably one of the worst days to be recording a video. So today I have cold brew, not my typical warm coffee, because it is an absolute must today. And you can see how much the cup is covered in condensation. That is how absolutely hot it is today. Currently, I am still working on the revisions of my YA fantasy novel, my Eliana story, as I've been calling it. And the one thing about revisions that I know because I've done revisions before, but it's just really kind of coming back to me as I've been working on these revisions, you have to spend a lot of time with your own writing. And that means you discover some things about your writing. Hi there. What you doing, Bingley? We have a guest star today. When you're revising, you spend a lot of time with your own writing, and that means you kind of discover or rediscover certain things about your writing and your writing style and your writing errors that are very, very, very annoying. We've all got them, those annoying little things that after a while when you're revising, you just want to ask your past self, like, why did you do this? So I've made a little list of some of those things that I've been finding in my writing. Of course, it's not comprehensive. There are plenty of other things I'm sure that either I have noticed and forgotten to write down, or I've just not noticed yet and they will drive me crazy later in revisions. That's very, very possible. But these are just a few of the things that I've been noticing so far. Most of them have to do with kind of line editing, even though I'm not really doing line editing right now. I'm still working on more world building and developmental edits. But they're things that I've been noticing in my writing and tweaking here and there when I really drive myself crazy and I just have to fix it. I've seen a lot of these ranking videos recently and I'm not sure I know the way to do it. I'm not gonna do it in a super organized fashion. I've just made a little list and I'm gonna go through them with you guys and put them in the order of which ones drive me the absolute most crazy. And I would love it if you guys would do the same, either in the comments below. Tell me if you share some of these things and if you would rank them higher or lower, or if you also have a channel and you wanna make a video like this, please do, because this is kind of fun and it's a nice little exercise of sorts to do while I'm in the midst of revisions, just to kind of make light of some of these annoying little things in my own writing. And Bingley really wants attention. So the first thing I've written down is when the same word is used multiple times in a page or a chapter. I know some of you can relate to this because I've heard this mentioned in other vlogs. We have these words, each one of us has different sort of fallback words that we constantly put in, whether it's a specific adverb that we use to describe things all the time or just a weird word that just keeps coming back. I think still is one of these words for me. I use still a lot for some reason. I use a lot of references to eyes. That's actually another thing on my list that's coming later. But these things that just keep coming around and you just use that same word over and over, it's like a fallback. And when you're drafting, of course, you don't notice most of the time. Hi, Bingley. What you doing there, bud? But when you're revising, of course, and you're looking really closely at everything and you're reading stuff from start to finish, you start to notice these things very, very easily. So that is the first one. I'm gonna rank it probably towards the top, but maybe not, because it is kind of something that is fairly easy to correct in revisions. The next thing is when a simile, metaphor, or some sort of comparison I've made up doesn't quite work. I have noticed this so much in my first draft. I think I started to get very creative with adding these in. I've always done this in my writing, but with this book, I think I just really kind of went crazy with it and enjoyed doing that. But that means that some of them, when I'm going back and reading, you know, I think, oh, that was so clever, that was so well done, I really like how I used that. And then other times I come across one and it doesn't make any sense. It just sounds so cheesy and it does not work at all. It's fairly easy to correct because you can either just take it out or replace it with something else, just kind of rephrase it. It's not like it's a huge problem, but it is really annoying often because I remember specifically thinking, how clever is this, when I was writing the first draft. And then when I find out it doesn't work, it bursts my bubble. So I think I would have to say that one probably goes above the same word being used multiple times. It's definitely more annoying. Up next is something I know a lot of other writers struggle with because I've seen so many jokes in the writing community on Twitter. When there are too many ellipses or dashes, I definitely use both ellipses and dashes, sometimes kind of in a string where I go back and forth on the same page or in the same chapter. Sometimes I kind of go on a dash spree or an ellipses spree. I don't know why I do it. I think maybe sometimes often in dialogue, I'll use them as sort of, you know, trying to frame my dialogue. But at the end of the day, usually you can frame it in a way that doesn't require too many ellipses and dashes. And if you're using them too much, your dialogue's probably got some problems and some weaknesses. I just recently corrected a section where I had made a note earlier in my revisions, fix this, take out some of these ellipses and dashes, and I just went through and rewrote a lot of it. And I ended up being able to make the dialogue much stronger, I felt like, at the other end, because I looked at it critically. I didn't just look at, you know, can I just take the dashes out or take the ellipses out? But I actually looked at, why am I trying to use these so much? What am I trying to portray? Like, why are my characters hesitating this much? And then I looked at how I could portray that through the dialogue itself. That one doesn't bother me as badly, I think, as the simile and metaphor one. The same word being used multiple times is probably still less annoying though, because again, it's just easy to fix. Next we have when my characters smile, shrug, laugh, nod, etc. way too much. I love these things. I am not someone who struggles with dialogue tags. I have, you know, very much left that problem behind me. Now I have the new problem of overusing these sort of action movement verbs within my dialogue. I would say this one also is more annoying than when the same word is used multiple times. I would say it's even more annoying than ellipses and dashes to me as well, because not that it's not easy to fix, it's just one of these things that frustrates me as I'm going back through my draft. Like, why did I have everyone nod so much in this scene? Or why is everyone laughing all the time? Similarly, like I said, the eyes are coming back, because another really annoying thing in this draft is when I make too many references to eyes or eye contact or looking. This is another thing I do often within dialogue scenes. She looked up, they met eyes, she gazed at this, her eyes grazed across the page. I love these things. Personally, I respond very strongly to eyes. I love eyes. It's one of the first things I notice about a person. It's something that really holds my attention as I'm trying to think about how emotion's conveyed, as I watch movies and watch emotion being conveyed. It's the eyes that get me. I know I'm not the only person who has this thing with eyes, but I think my fascination with eyes is just maybe a little bit stronger than the average person, because I'm kind of obsessed. But that means that it's reflected in my writing as well, because I have references to eyes and looking and gazing and all of that stuff and staring so many times. That's gonna go up right, I think at the top, even above the simile and metaphor one. Okay, so the next one is when a side character gets a little bit too much screen time. I put that in quotation marks. I couldn't really think of a better expression for it, but you know, too much time on the page, I guess. This is linked to the next one on my list, which is when a side character doesn't have enough to do in the story. So then of course you have one of those moments of wondering if the side character needs to exist or if it's okay, the amount of time they have in your story, because not every side character, I'm dropping things, because not every side character needs to have a huge part in the story. But of course it's annoying when you're revising and you're trying to figure out, does this character need more time, less time? Is this character even necessary? Should I, you know, get rid of them completely? Because if you have too big of a cast of characters, then it gets confusing for the reader as well. I would say probably the side character getting too much screen time would have to be, I guess, above ellipses and dashes, because normally why my side characters will get too much screen time, too much page time, is because I really like them. So it's very annoying to have to limit their role even more when I discover that maybe they don't need to have quite that big of a role. When a side character doesn't have enough to do in the story, I would say that can probably go at the bottom of the list for now, because it is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Next is when a description goes on too long. Occasionally I have a Tolkien moment and I just go crazy describing something, and it's really fun to write. Sometimes I get really creative in my descriptions, but then when I'm revising and I realize I've written 3 paragraphs about, I don't know, an end table or something, you know, it's a little bit much. Okay, I don't do that. That's an exaggeration. Please don't think that my book is actually just made up of descriptions of furniture. I would say that one probably will go above when a side character gets a little bit too much screen time, but below when my characters smile, shrug, laugh, and nod too much, because that still bugs me. It is very frustrating when you have a really nice description and you have to cut it, or you have to kind of move it around and maybe try and reuse some of those nice little things you said and how you said them in a different part, but often, you know, you just have to cut stuff, and I hate cutting stuff. But yeah, it doesn't go too high on the list because there are still some things on here that bug me a lot more. Linked to that is the next one, which is when there's description missing. For example, if I left something important out of the story, or if I have kind of a moment of white room syndrome where I haven't described the room or the setting well enough, it's definitely fixable, and sometimes it's actually really fun to fix, because when I realize something's missing, I get to get creative and either fill in the gaps that I already have in my mind and just haven't transferred that to the page, or I get to actually think about it like, okay, what does this room smell like, or you know, what is the lighting like? So this one I think will actually go at the bottom of the list now. When foreshadowing becomes a bit too heavy-handed. Yeah. In my early drafts, the first books that I wrote, I don't think I did much foreshadowing at all, because I did outline, but I didn't outline as much, so I didn't always have my end of plot or my sort of later scenes mapped out, so it was actually very hard to foreshadow. The more plotting I've done, the more I've sort of tinkered around with foreshadowing. And in this book, I'm really trying to have that perfect amount, because I want it to have more of an element of suspense than my past books have had. With that, though, comes the danger of over foreshadowing. It's actually really hard to find that balance between, you know, kind of dangling stuff in front of the reader's nose and sort of egging them on and encouraging them to think in the right direction without giving something away, or maybe even foreshadow something that maybe they should expect. But then also playing it coy and sort of keeping some things behind, because you don't want to completely reveal any, you know, plot twists or just plot points at all that are coming. You don't want to completely make it predictable for the reader, because that's super boring. We've all read those books that are way too predictable. So this one definitely is going to go pretty high on the list. I think it's going to go right below the Simile Metaphor one. That still bugs me more, as I've said, because normally that's a clever thing that I have to then realize was not so clever. But foreshadowing is pretty difficult to get right and to fix in revisions. It's something I'm still struggling with as I'm revising. The next thing on the list is when I can't tell if something's supposed to be funny is actually funny. This is a problem I have had a lot, I feel like, in this draft. Obviously, I've written funny characters in the past, but I feel like in this one I'm trying some different styles in my prose as well as my characters and my dialogue. I don't know, I tried a lot of things in this one, which means that obviously some of them are gonna work really well, and then other things are just not gonna work well. And occasionally that has to do with either funny things my characters have said in dialogue, also sometimes how I tried to write something in the prose and be a bit quirky maybe. Sometimes it really works and other times it doesn't. Similarly to my simile metaphor issue, when this happens, it usually stings a little bit, because I remember when I wrote the thing thinking it was so funny or thinking it was so clever, and then of course, you know, to find out that it's not so clever, or to doubt that it's clever, is very annoying. So I'm gonna scoot that all the way up. It's gonna go above the simile and metaphor, because once again, simile metaphor, it's very frustrating, it stings the pride a bit, but you can fix it or you can take it out. But then sometimes when I wrote something funny in the prose or in the dialogue, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of fix. And usually I feel like I need to fix it with something else that is actually funny. When a sentence is a jumbling, confusing mess I can't decipher. This has happened a few times. It doesn't happen that often. Normally when there's kind of a weird funky sentence or something that I didn't quite phrase right, I know what I was trying to say and I can fix it, and usually it's not too difficult of a fix. But occasionally I have come across a sentence that has tried something and I don't quite know what I was trying, and it's a little bit of a mess. So I think I'm gonna put that one right below foreshadowing, I would say. It's usually not a huge deal. It's kind of a small thing. I can either remember what I was trying to do and fix it, or if I just can't really remember what I was going for, I can take it out or rephrase it or something else. The last one is when I really should have done more research. I have a scene where someone picks a lock, and when I was revising I realized whatever I had written, the advice that I had written one character giving to another, telling her how to pick a lock, didn't make any sense. And I had done some research, but I hadn't really looked into it as much as I should have to write that. I do like doing research, and I don't mind having to correct certain little things in my drafts, but when they become kind of on a larger scale, it becomes very annoying. I would say this one's going to go right below when a sentence is a jumbling, confusing mess I can't decipher, because that's still more frustrating, because then it's me not being able to understand me versus me not understanding something I should have researched a little bit more. So there is my list. There are the 13 things that I wrote down. Like I said, not comprehensive. These are not all the mistakes I make, and some of them I obviously make more than other things. All of them can be fixed, but it's little frustrating things that I have discovered by revising my own writing that I do. Let me know in the comments if you share any of these little annoying tendencies within your own writing, or if there are other things you've noticed while revising, or even while drafting, if they're just things that you start to notice that you do over and over. All in all, my revisions are going really well so far. They have gotten slowed down this summer. I was planning on spending a lot more time devoted to my writing, but for the things that I have already mentioned on Instagram and on my other channel, things have slowed down my revisions, so it's just taking a little bit longer, but they're still going really well. I do really enjoy revising, and I do actually enjoy finding these problems in my writing, because once you start noticing them, you can fix them, and the fact that you notice them at all means that you are improving as a writer and you're noticing things that you didn't notice in your first draft, and things that are, of course, in the end, fixable. If you have any questions for me about revisions, please do leave them in the comments below, and you can also follow me on Instagram, where I frequently do Q&As either in my Instagram stories, or sometimes I'll poll for questions over there and I'll do a video on this channel, and I am going to do a Q&A video probably at one point soon, so definitely make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am going to go melt now. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon in another writing video.